Just what is the opposition PNP's transportation plan overall? We're not just talking about school buses and not just zeroing in on the opposition's criticism of the government's rural school bus program. We want to know what is the integrated approach that a PNP administration will take to the issue of public transportation. Well, the opposition spokesman on transportation, Michael Phillips, MP for North West Manchester, is joining me to discuss just that on this Friday. Lead story time. Let's go. Welcome to Lead Story on this Friday here on CVM TV. The issue of transportation has dominated the news in the last 3 or so weeks. And so we are pleased this evening to be able to put the opposition spokesman on transport in the hot seat to have him articulate for us the government's, the PNP administration, if they take office, the PNP, what as government they'll implement as a transportation program, taking in not just rural school transportation, but transportation in the urban area and the approach to the JUTC to make it less of a drag on the public purse strings. MP Phillips, he's the man in charge of North West Manchester, joins me this evening. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening. Good evening to you. Good evening to your viewers.
Where in the constituency are you this evening?
Well, I spent all day at the constituency office, even though we're in the midst of an election and campaign. Just left my office, heading up to Ballinure, so I'm in the Mile Gully area.
In the Mile Gully area. The reception is surprisingly good, so I like it.
Yeah, man.
Good. All right.
We're trying down here.
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about the PNP's transport plan. Notice how I framed it. I'm not focusing on school buses so much. I'm talking about the integrated transport plan that you will have the responsibility, one suspects, of implementing if the PNP takes charge after the next election.
Well, as I spoke of it in my sectoral presentation, and I've been speaking of it over a period of years, because it is one that not only involves the bringing back the JUTC to what it used to be. It also involves light rail coming from Spanish Town and Portmore into downtown Kingston, bringing everyone into a hub so that you can hop off that rail onto a bus, a JUTC bus, or one that is a franchise holder. Looking at a rural school bus system, looking at rural transport overall, looking at how it is that we look at the transport centers and how it is that we revamp them, relocate some, so that we can ease the traffic congestion in most of our main town centers. Looking at the transport authority as a whole, bringing it back to its core function, which is supposed to be the regulator for the transport sector, not only public transport, but for commercial carriers and other sectors within the transport sector. Looking at how it is that we can look at rail to not only carry passengers, but freight across the island in the medium to long term. Looking at how it is that we treat with the KMTR, is it that we have to go back to a franchising system within the KMTR to involve both the JUTC and private operators? Looking at how it is that we distribute Hackney carriage license and how it is that we treat with the rural system itself in the route taxes, and how it is that we can integrate it with both public and private operators in a comprehensive transport plan.
Hold it right there for me, MP Phillips. Break time here. Speaking with the opposition spokesman on transport, Michael Phillips, talking about the transport plan that he hopes to implement if the PNP wins the next election.
I love waking up every day in this country. This is where I was born and raised. I have such a passion for my country, and for me, this is home. In Jamaica, a lot of people, they look at just like beach, sea, sand, but our mountains are something to behold. It's majestic up there, and it's a different type of peace. It's a different type of lifestyle completely. I could mention many different places that are amazing, but the one thing I do love about Jamaica as well is that you can find that relaxation, you can find that chill in your backyard. Apart from it being an incredibly beautiful country, an incredibly beautiful island, we have a wonderful, wonderful culture, wonderful, vibrant, colorful people. There is definitely a realness to Jamaica. There's definitely something that no matter what keeps you in touch with reality here. Why come to Jamaica? It all comes back down to Jamaica as a whole. The food, the music, the culture, the people, the climate. Come out and meet us, come out and experience what Jamaica has to offer.
Welcome back. The Member of Parliament from Northwest Manchester, Michael Phillips, is in Mile Gully. He's been in the constituency all day. Of course, the MPs, hands on the pump because an election is nigh. He's the opposition spokesman on transport, and he's talking about the PNP's plan. Michael Phillips, there's no secret that the party that cures transportation in the KMTR would have gone a far way to addressing the transport woes that affect many Jamaicans, the majority of whom commute to and from work or from their place of endeavor. This administration promised 300 new buses some time ago. It will tell you that it is well on the way to delivering those buses. It will also tell you that fare revenue increased 100 million year over year, 2024 versus 2023. That is nothing to celebrate, but it's a movement in the right direction. How will what you are intending to implement top what is being done by Vaz and company in the transport ministry?
I like to go back to why it is that we're where we are. And the People's National Party in the past, in 1998, understood what the plight of the traveling public, what they were going through. Hence why, at great sacrifice, we created the Jamaica Urban Transit Company. And the sacrifice was not only that of the government of the day then, but also those operators, the franchise holders, who were already in a system that we recognize was not working, and hence why the JUTC. Yes, it is something to celebrate that the revenue of the JUTC has increased by $100 million. But remember that the revenue of the JUTC is now 1.3 billion, coming from 4.5 billion in 2016. We are coming from a rolling stock of 450 buses down to a low of about 150, 170 buses up to 2023, 2024. You're going back up to a rolling stock of close to 300 buses. But the JUTC needs a rollout of about 400 to 430 to 450 buses daily to be able to see the revenue that it used to see in the past. So yes, it's a step in the right direction, but it is a bit late in the day of when it is that we should have started to cauterize the downward spiral of the JUTC.
But stay on the point. But stay on the point of MP Phillips, because I want to ask you this. You speak to a period under a PNP administration when 400 plus buses were being dispatched from depots daily to service the needs of commuters. And the fact is, you're right, that number is far less now in terms of the daily deployment under this JLP administration. But public transportation is about a balance between what private operators are empowered to provide and what the state will provide. As things stand now, are you saying that the distribution is in disequilibrium with less or fewer government-provided buses and more public private providers? What are you saying?
No, because you can't say that we are providing the shortfall of the seats in the KMTR by private providers, because the license that have been issued in the KMTR for private providers our Hackney carriage license, not route carriage license. It is just now that the government has decided to supply a few route taxes license within the KMTR, and at the same time, while providing those route taxi license, are still providing Hackney carriage license within the same KMTR, which is now putting additional competition on those who would like to conform and go on the routes. So there is not an overarching plan. If you look at coming from about 3,000 Hackney carriage license in 2016 to now nearly 10,000 Hackney carriage license in 2025 in the same KMTR space, even though you have less seats from the JUTC. And the reason, so it is now, how do you put a comprehensive plan within the KMTR without displacing those Hackney carriage license operators, putting in an overall plan, working in tandem jointly with the public government transport system in the JUTC? And how is it that you make that work? That is where we need to start carrying a conversation instead of just opening up the licensing regime.
Right.
Say we're adding a few more buses while and hold your points, while the JUTC is still spending the same amount that it was for 400 buses, still spending the same amount in its operational costs, even with less buses in the fleet. Now, that for me now is where we have to, and I've been saying to the Prime Minister and the Minister, what is their plan for the JUTC?
Yeah.
Because the ad hoc way in how it is that they're rolling out the buses, both in rural, in the KMTR, is not giving an overall plan on how it is that we're going to reduce the overall loss of the JUTC. And let me make it clear, we don't expect the JUTC to make a profit.
Right.
But what we expect for it to do is to at least to take care of a percentage of its overall operating.
But let me get you clear. Let me get you clear, because I hear you. You're very consistent in saying that the way things are in the KMTR, Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region, you use the term ad hoc. Some people say chaka chaka. Some people say disorganized. But let me get you clear. Are you imagining a future under a PNP administration where the JUTC has less or more seats than are now? Private contractors have less or more seats. You have more route taxi seats, more Hackney carriage seats. How are you envisaging a plan that gives a fair shake to private and public transport providers?
Well, we'll first look at a franchise system within the KMTR and then convert some of those of what you have now as Hackney carriage into a franchising system to take off some of the load off the JUTC on some of the routes that are now not serviced by the JUTC. Because our intention is not to displace any of the operators, but how it is that we can bring them into a comprehensive system. We will have to look at the capacity of the JUTC, seeing where it is that they will fill certain gaps, and see how it is that we expand them in some instances. Let us use Portmore for an example. Instead of using the smaller buses, we would convert those into the articulated buses, carrying more passengers in one haul, paying less toll than paying toll for more buses.
Yes.
Coming from a Portmore. As I said, looking in the medium term,
Yes.
in looking at how it is that we can carry more passengers from commuters like Portmore and Spanish Town, taking the buses off the road by providing light rail and looking at a bus center like we have in Halfway Tree.
Quick one before I go to the break, MP, and come back with the final segment, because the battlers are starting to bite. Town people would not know what we're talking about, but those insects bite hot, similar to mosquitoes. Hear me and you now. The CNG buses, I've been told that they have this significant flaw that could compromise their operational life. Is that your understanding? Yes or no?
You know, I warned the government when they were deciding to purchase the electric buses at first, that they are not conducive for our environment.
Yeah.
I mean, Barbados bought a whole fleet and 90% of the buses went down in less than a year.
Hold the line. I have to take the time signal. Hold that point. We're going to finish it up after this. This is Lead Story on Friday, CVM TV.
Is paving the way to becoming a republic or future or choice. The time by the Ministry of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
6:45.
Lyrically gifted and unapologetic about his craft, this artist beautifully fuses his influence from rap, hip-hop, reggae, and all things in between. This is Kabaka Pyramid.
My hip-hop name was Ronnie P. Clarks, you know. I don't know what the P
now
mean.
stand for pyramid.
Yeah.
Hey!
When we discover auto-tune, my word, what a savior. Auto-tune make me turn an artist, you know. Anybody will tell you say them find themselves, them lost, because it's a constant journey of growth and evolution.
A word.
I would have literally do a football talk show.
You
tomorrow.
would be good at it though. You
100%.
would be. Because your takes are actually good. Now sometimes,
I think so. But
your team might be
that.
trash.
Odyssey with Yendi, brought to you by Grace, singer and island.
Final few minutes with Michael Phillips, the minister, the spokesman on transport, the member of parliament for Northwest Manchester. You were answering my question about what you've heard about problems with the CNG buses which could compromise your operational efficiency.
There are two issues that we have concern with now, because when you do the research, it shows that diesel is the safest way to go when it comes to public transport. CNG, there are some concerns with it in public transport, but it's the safest of the cleaner fuel type that you have where public transport is concerned. What the concern we have now with the current fleet that the JUTC has is that there's only one CNG filling plant that is currently operated by the JUTC. That filling plant is in Portmore, which has a capacity to fill about 150 buses, operating at about 14 hours per day. The government now has close to 200 of those buses, CNG buses, and the filling plant now has to operate at over capacity, really, at close to 24 hours per day. The buses that we have in Rockfort and you have in Spanish Town have to now drive to Portmore to refuel. That is an efficient system. The minister said that he is building a new CNG plant in Spanish Town. We have a little concern with that because the sole company that provides CNG to most of the CNG plants in Jamaica has no more interest in providing CNG to the JUTC. The minister has found another company or partnership to install a plant in Portmore, in Spanish Town. But the question is, will we be getting the CNG at a cost that will give a saving to the JUTC itself, or will it be more expensive?
Yes.
Because anyone else that would be bringing CNG into the country would not be bringing it in the quantity that would make it viable for them.
Yes.
So, and that plant itself is going to take about 4 to 5 months to be constructed.
Yes.
So, we were saying to the minister, why putting the cart before the horse?
Yes.
Because if that plant at Portmore breaks down, then the majority of the buses that is now in the fleet of the JUTC,
can't move.
90% of your fleet would go down because there would be no capacity to refuel these buses.
Hear me on this one now, opposition spokesman on transport. Do you agree that the PNP misread the mood and the feeling of Jamaicans and got it wrong with its criticism of the government's rural school bus program?
I don't think it is that we misread, because the leader of the opposition spoke about it in his budget debate, about the RIDE program, which providing 20,000 students with the opportunity to get to school with a subsidy. I spoke about it in my own sectoral presentation. I asked questions of the minister then in my sectoral presentation of some concerns that we had with what they have proposed, namely how it is that they're going to be serviced out in the rural parts of Jamaica. There's no depot for facilitating them. The ones that now operate in other areas are now parked at police stations, some at schools. Some principals have said that they don't have the capacity to manage the buses as a going concern now. What we proposed, I think there are some that misunderstood what it is that we were proposing.
But hold on, member, hold on. I hear you on the misunderstanding of what you proposed, and I'm clear on what the RIDE program is from the budget presentation and the sectoral debate presentation. But to be fair, that's not how the criticism of the government's program was mounted. It was, as people, well, what social media users and Jamaicans everywhere are saying, letters to the editor, it was trenchant criticism, caustic criticism. So it's on that count that I'm asking, rather than use the RIDE program as, look, this is our alternative, this is a better option. The attempt to discredit the JLP's plan, did the PNP go overboard with that, is what I'm asking you to pronounce on.
I wouldn't say that we went overboard. There were persons who went on the platform and with the fire in their belly, said some things that some shouldn't have been said. But we want to focus on what it is that we have proposed in the RIDE program, and expanding what rural bus system that was proposed by this administration, and that we have a better plan in providing for more students. 40% of the absenteeism in our school are from students in deep rural Jamaica, and we are wanting to find a solution in dealing with the absenteeism, in expanding a rural bus system that we can provide a subsidized transport system for those students. In most of those communities, you will not be able to send one of these, what I would dub the yellow buses, that is now in the fleet of the government rural bus system. Yeah, but you may have smaller, you will have smaller mode of transport, yes, that will have to take out those children.
The attack on the JUTC buses in two areas particularly. Nobody can prove who is behind it or who perpetrated it. I want to hear you on these people who believe it is sensible and necessary to use missiles to damage buses owned by me, you, and every other person in this country who pays taxes.
Well, let me just say to you is that the People's National Party and myself as the spokesperson on transport, we condemn anyone who wants to destroy public property, and in this case, the JUTC buses. We hope that the police themselves will find those perpetrators, and the full book length of the law takes care of these individuals who are destroying the JUTC buses. Because each time that someone breaks a glass or damages a bus, it costs the taxpayers, and it is one vehicle less that the JUTC has to operate with, which is not helping the commuting public. You have 500,000 Jamaicans who are dependent on public transport in the Kingston Metropolitan Transport Region. And there's no safe haven in the People's National Party for any person like that. And if that person is a comrade and we know who it is, then we will be reporting them to the police. It is unfortunate that the minister and others who work with the JUTC start to color the conversation on the damage of the JUTC bus. And I think that was irresponsible by the minister for saying that it happened in an area that is supportive of the People's National Party. We are in the heightened campaign period. And all that is going to do is now to raise the political tension
Yes.
in a space that doesn't need to be
Yes.
brought. It has happened many a times on that stretch of road,
Yes.
and it has never been brought to say that it is politics. So it should not be. But we condemn those who we certainly say that
Yes.
those who are destroying the buses should stop, cease and desist from it, and hoping that the police will bring those to book.
30 seconds, MP. You're a marked man. The JLP say they're coming hand over fist for Northwest Manchester, and they say they finally have a candidate who can boot you from the parliament. Are you perturbed?
I will be Member of Parliament for Northwest Manchester for a 4th term. I think I know that my work has spoken for itself, my constituency, the work that I have done. I welcome anyone who wants to challenge me. The people have a choice of who it is that they want to elect, and I'm sure that they will re-elect Michael Asher Phillips as their Member of Parliament in Northwest Manchester.
And I did say last, but you were absent from the minister's consultation on the rural school bus program. He says only Maurice Guy from the opposition among MPs turned up. Why didn't you attend?
I had an activity in my constituency on that day. When the minister's office had written to me, the truth be told is that I did not respond to their email accepting or not their invitation. I did not respond because I got busy and it slipped me. So, no one else reached out to me.